Caitlin Clark remains non-committal on Upstart League Project B. Fever star Caitlin Clark remained non-committal about her potential involvement in Startup League Project B during a Zoom news conference for USA Basketball on Friday. Clark, who was in Durham, North Carolina, for a USA Basketball camp, was asked if the new league, which has already signed multiple high-profile players like Nneka Ogwumike and Kelsey Mitchell, has reached out to her or if she plans to join when it starts play in 2027. "I plan to play in the WNBA," Clark said. Clark then added that the addition of new leagues, including those like Unrivaled and Project B, are great for the visibility of women's basketball as a whole. "I think more than anything, it showcases what people think of women's basketball," Clark said. "All these different opportunities, all these opportunities, all these different leagues, the platform that they want to give women's basketball, where they think women's basketball is going to continue to grow." Multiple of Clark's teammates have already signed on to the league, which will start play in 2026. It will run from November to April during the off-season, with 6 11-player teams competing in 7 different 2-week tournaments around Europe, Asia, and Latin America. Salaries for Project B will start at $2 million per season, according to Front Office Sports. Shoipe Cunningham, who missed the final 2 months of the Fever season with an MCL tear, signed to Project B on November 25. "Excited to join Project B's athlete roster as they launch a new chapter in women's basketball," Cunningham said. "Our game is exploding in popularity, and I'm all in on carrying that momentum forward in any way I can, both at home in the US and beyond." Cunningham later said on her podcast, "Show Me Something," that she tried to recruit Clark to Project B. "I tried to get her to play in this one," Cunningham said December 8. "And she said, no." The league announced Mitchell, an MVP finalist for the Fever this season, as a signee to the league November 24. Mitchell will be one of multiple players to make the switch from Unrivaled, a 3x3 league based in Miami that runs from January-March. She is playing in Unrivaled this offseason, along with fellow Fever teammates Aaliyah Boston, Lexi Hull, Ari McDonald, and Michaela Timpson. "Project B represents the evolution of women's basketball," Mitchell said. "I'm honored to be part of this global movement and excited to compete on a stage built for the future of the game." Chloe Peterson is the Indiana Fever beat reporter for IndyStar. Reach her at capeterson@gannett.com or follow her on X at @ChloePeterson67. The question came softly, almost casually, the way big questions often do when they know their weight. Caitlin Clark listened, smiled, and paused, just long enough for the room to lean forward. Project B, the upstart league with bold promises and bigger ideas, had been circling her name for months. Investors whispered. Fans debated. Headlines speculated. And still, Clark remained non-committal. In a sports world addicted to instant answers, her pause felt radical. Clark has always understood timing. On the court, it's the difference between a rushed shot and a logo three that snaps the net like a sentence with perfect punctuation. Off the court, timing is quieter, heavier. It carries futures in its pockets. Project B, pitched as a player-forward alternative with equity, flexibility, and a reimagined calendar, represented more than another contract. It represented a fork in the road, not just for Clark, but for women's basketball itself. And yet, she didn't bite. "I'm focused on where I am," she said carefully. "I'm open to listening. I'm not rushing anything." Non-committal. The word landed with a thud and a ripple. For some, it read like hesitation. For others, like wisdom. Project B's rise has been swift and strategic. Glossy decks. Promises of ownership stakes. A vision that sells not just games, but autonomy. It has appealed to players hungry for leverage and architects eager to redraw the map. In that vision, Caitlin Clark isn't just a player. She's a cornerstone, a gravitational force. Her range stretches defenses and imaginations alike. Put her name on a league and the league feels real. But Clark has never been a shortcut. Those who know her path know the pattern. Patience wrapped in preparation. At every step, high school gyms, college arenas, professional spotlights, she chose the long view. She built credibility before she built brand. She let her game speak before she let the market shout. That instinct hasn't dulled now that the stakes are higher. If anything, it's sharpened. Remaining non-committal is not the same as being uninterested. Clark listens. She asks questions. She weighs the unseen costs. Project B's pitch glitters, but glitter can distract. Sustainability matters. Competition matters. The ecosystem matters. A league doesn't thrive on star power alone. It survives on structure, trust, and time. Clark understands that if you rush the foundation, the house creaks when the crowds arrive. There's also the present, unavoidable, demanding. Clark's current commitments are not placeholders, they're chapters. Teammates, coaches, fans who show up believing this moment counts. She has spoken often about loyalty and responsibility, about earning what comes next by honoring what exists now. For her, basketball is relational. You don't just play for opportunity, you play for people. So when Project B asks for a yes, she offers a maybe. The thoughtful maybe. The kind that respects ambition without surrendering discernment. The pressure, of course, is immense. Every move Clark makes is magnified, translated, dissected. If she commits, she's a pioneer. If she doesn't, she's accused of fear or conservatism. But Clark has never let the noise set her pace. She learned early that clarity doesn't come from consensus, it comes from alignment. When her feet, her mind, and her values point the same way, the decision follows. There's something quietly powerful about watching a superstar refuse to be hurried. In an era where athletes are urged to maximize everything immediately, money, exposure, legacy, Clark's restraint feels like a countercultural act. She's not anti-innovation. She's anti-impulse. She wants to know how Project B treats players when the novelty fades, how it handles adversity, how it builds community rather than simply courting clout. And there's the broader picture. Women's basketball is not short on momentum right now, it's rich with it. New fans, new debates, new energy. Clark knows that any move she makes sends a signal about belief, about patience, about where the game is going. Remaining non-committal keeps the conversation open. It invites accountability. It says, show me more. Perhaps that's the real leverage she holds, not just her shooting range, but her ability to wait. By not committing, Clark forces Project B to mature in public, to prove its intentions are durable. She forces the market to meet her standards rather than the other way around. When she finally does choose, whatever she chooses, it will be because the path aligns with who she is and what she wants the game to become. Until then, the pause remains. Intentional. Unapologetic. In a sport learning how to hold space for possibility, Caitlin Clark's non-commitment is not a void. It's a promise. A promise that the future deserves thought. A promise that leadership can look like listening. And a reminder that sometimes, the most powerful move is knowing when not to make one.